After one of the most highly anticipated college football seasons to date, we have our national championship. It'll be Ohio State and Notre Dame. Welcome to the wrap-up college football playoff edition. Alongside Matt Sims, Scoop McGezza, I am Sam Ravitch. So great to have you with us. And what a game that just finished down there at the Cotton Bowl between Texas and Ohio State. We will preview the national championship game. We will also talk about the game that happened yesterday, the first semifinal game between Penn State and Notre Dame. But we will also be monitoring the YouTube chat. As you guys watching at home, please interact with us. Scooby will be keeping an eye on that throughout the entire show. I got to imagine, Scooby, we're going to have quite a few angry Texas fans in there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Angry Texas fans, happy Ohio State fans, Michigan fans coming in.
Yeah, why not?
Hey, we beat that team, and everyone else can thank Michigan because they're the reasons why this Ohio State team is so angry.
That is right. They might send them actually a national championship ring here in a few weeks. So that'd be nice.
You might as well with the way that they're playing.
Texas had a chance to beat Michigan and beat Ohio State in the same year. But they weren't able to do it.
There you go. Man, that feels like forever ago.
Right?
Now that you mention that. That is wild, too. It's been a long year, and everybody's been playing really tough. And I feel like, man, I'm exhausted after tonight's game.
Yeah.
That took a toll on me physically, but really entertaining football game. Got a lot to talk about, so really excited.
It's also kind of it's just a bittersweet feeling for me because we're now getting to the national championship. The season's coming to an end. You don't want it to end.
Yeah.
This has been such an exciting college football playoff, and now we do have the final two teams.
Yeah, are we okay now after that first round of playoffs? You know, the
just ironed itself out. That's
yeah,
all.
exactly.
Yeah.
But we ended up, I think, with great teams in the Final Four, awesome matchups.
Yeah.
You know, so hey, let's get to it, Sam.
Yeah.
Lead us away.
Well, and it was this was the game that I think a lot of people had their eyes on when you got down to the Final Four, Scoob, and then it played out that way for most of the game as the most intense college football playoff game that we've seen to date.
Yeah, and with these programs, everyone was locked into the matchup. So let's go ahead and get to it and show y'all the highlight and stop doing all this yapping because it's off to Jerry World. Texas, Ohio State Longhorns playing in their 23rd Cotton Bowl appearance against an Ohio State team that's 3-1 against AP top 5 teams this season, guys. So that's the best in the nation. First quarter, Buckeyes in the red zone. Quinshon Judkins says, let's get this party started. Whoop! That is, gets in the end zone, 9 hard-working yards there. It's 7-0 Ohio State. Fast forward, 2.5 minutes left in the first. Travion Henderson gets a rock, but look at the bottom of the screen. Angry block alert. Judkins says, I ain't ludicrous, but you better move and get out the way. Check this out, Matt.
Love it. Got to set the tone there on the edge right there. Love when your running back is blocking for your other fellow running back down the field that way, setting the tone early for the Buckeye offense.
All right, this is 3rd and 10, under 2 minutes left. Ewers scrambling like an egg before he gets folded like an omelet, gets 9 yards, not the full 10, sets up 4th and short. Now we got Arch Manning in the game, and Sark digs into his bag of tricks. The play design, y'all. Check it out. Arch with the rock. First down, but wait, ball's out, right? Wait.
Close.
After further review,
real close.
It was deemed that he was down by contact. Next play, Ewers to Bolden, and he's rolling. 24-yard gain, his only catch of the day.
Matthew Golden went out in this game. They needed somebody else to step up, and he did on that catch there.
Well, Ewers says, I got the blues, and I'm feeling bad to the bone. Jaden Blue, 18-yard touchdown, tie game. They hit him with the dodgeball celebration here. So with 29 seconds left, this was the answer Ohio State had.
Throw that in, too. Hey, if you throw that in, they're all in. Howard, how aggressive will they be in the final seconds? Henderson can make a house call from anywhere. And look out! He just might do it! Travion Henderson gets momentum back for Ohio State. 75 yards.
I can be your hero, baby. Hey, he had a flag earlier in the game that was costly, made up for it there. So Longhorns look to answer. 3rd and 10. Ewers doing his best Patrick Mahomes impression here. Just gets rid of the ball as he gets it to Wisner at the last possible moment. Check this out, guys.
Yeah, Ewers had to be really creative at times in this game, whereas he really didn't have to much of the season. This was amazing that he got this off.
Nice no look right there.
Oh, man, so you make a play like that. Let's see if you can keep it going. Because moments later, on 3rd down.
So awesome.
Ewers is still going to have the blues as we take another look at that play. Just absolutely ridiculous. They kept on hitting the mat with the running back coming out of the backfield on this rear route, Jaden Blue.
And on the touchdown before, Sonny Styles covering him man-to-man out of the backfield. In that situation, Sonny Styles blitz. They have a defensive tackle go out and zone coverage there. No one picks up the back out of the backfield.
4 for 4 on third down on that drive. So it's fourth down now. Buckeyes need a yard. If it worked before, why not do it again? Judkins gets 6 more. Second touchdown of the game. Ohio State up 21-14. Now 2.5 minutes left in the fourth. It's 4th and goal for Texas. They've struggled in the red zone this season. So if the struggle is real, let's get realer. Ewers strip sacked by his former roommate at Ohio State, Jack Sawyer, 82 yards to win the game. The longest fumble recovered for a touchdown in a college football playoff game. Buckeyes head to the national championship as they beat Texas 28-14. Talk about a win. Talk about a game. They covered. Matt. Back and forth for quite some time.
Yeah.
But Ohio State comes out on top. It is either championship or bust with this $20 million roster.
Man, what a football game.
Incredible.
First of all, Ohio State, the way that they started this game, let's go back even to Texas.
Yeah.
We start the game, first quarter, 4th and 3 situation. Sarkisian decides to go for it. They don't get that conversion. They run a play that's basically designed for man. They get zone. Very telling early on in the football game, too. Both teams really relied heavily on zone. Why are we going for it, though, on 4th and 3 early on in the football game?
Try to set the tone.
Try to set the tone.
Yeah.
I get it. So much game to be played, and really for all of us, can't win the game in the first quarter.
You can't. You might lose it, though.
You could lose it. You could hurt your team in that situation. Turnover on downs. Ohio State capitalizes on it.
Yep.
It's a big momentum for them. Now, going forward, they survive those moments. Man, barely missed the opportunity with Bolden dropping the return. The bounce back to him. I mean, that was a huge opportunity that they survived in that one. Then Quinn Ewers, sack fumble. They recovered that one. So there's 2 plays there early on in the football game where Texas potentially turns the football over. The ball bounces favorably on their way. The one to Bolden was absolutely ridiculous on the return. I mean, stripped out of his hand, the ball bounces, and he still catches on the run. Absolutely ridiculous. So you survive those things. You're in the game, right? Only down a score. You finally put a drive together to go down and tie the football game. Quinn Ewers' run, Arch's conversion there on 4th down, fantastic. Jaden Blue out of the backfield. Me and Scooby, we were yelling at the TV screen a week ago against Arizona State. Why isn't Jaden Blue playing? They got him involved in the play more in this game more often, which was fantastic, especially at the backfield as a catcher. And then, of course, the biggest play, I think, of the game was that screen pass, right before half. There's 30 seconds left in the half. Texas decides to run like a fire zone Tampa 2 cover where they're playing really soft and off. We talked about this just as an overall thought process, right, for teams. In 2-minute situations, easy completion to start it, whether it's a simple run or a simple pass. Typically a screen pass in those 2-minute situations before half or at the end of football games. Ohio State picks the screen to Travion Henderson. They block it perfectly. Texas is playing so soft. They got the cavalry leading out in front. And that really, I think, was a huge blow to Texas. Although they were able to fight back later in the second half, those are, I think, some of the few key plays where just Texas, you kind of let Ohio State off the hook in that one. I know I rambled for a long time there. I apologize, guys.
Well, you started it, and you started it at the first quarter. Let's take it down to the fourth because Texas had a chance to tie this game up late in that fourth quarter.
That's right.
They got down to the low red zone. I think they had 5 or 6 plays thanks to a pass interference call or a couple pass interference calls that got them down to the 1-yard line. They just were not able to convert. Here is kind of a compilation of some of these plays here.
Oh, man, that's the thing, Sam, that we've talked about this since last season.
Caleb Downs. Ransom.
Great play by Caleb Downs.
Unbelievable.
He got stiff-armed on this play, but he sniffed out the play and went for it. And I will say, I don't know why we're going for a toss on 3rd and short, but here we are. This is Texas trying to save their season in the red zone. What happened last year when they were trying to save their season in the red zone against Washington? Incomplete pass. Quinn Ewers having pressure in his face. You're going against the #1 red zone defense in the entire country in Ohio State.
No doubt.
How you decide your plays are going to be very critical in these situations. And when it is goal to go, Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country at that. But it just so happens that when it comes down to scoring touchdown in the red zone, they're not one of the best teams in the country. And that is where they struggled. It showed itself in this game. And as we take a look at a little bit of the social media here, check out the emotion that Will Howard had with Jack Sawyer. Y'all remember Jack Sawyer when Michigan tried to plant their flag on their logo?
Yeah.
How he was going crazy. He had an assistant coach, had his shirt grabbed up, yelling at him.
This is true right
here. We have some pride. That's what I'm talking about,
He
man.
became a legend tonight.
He did.
Sawyer, yeah, they might as well put a damn statue outside the horseshoe with
Top
that play
10
that he
chain.
made.
Shout out my boy Jerron right there.
But I know
Top 10,
the
man.
one point I want to make, too, to add to what Scooby's saying, and something that to me is very corny, and I know people at home be like, really? But, like, when Ohio State needed to get in the end zone, what did they do on the goal line? They got under center, they lined up, and they said,
buddy.
hey, we're running the football right here.
Straightforward.
And they pushed them into the end zone for hard-earned runs. Texas, they lined up. Jared Gibson, they said, hey, we're going to push it in there. Ohio State, not so fast. This is what we do. We stop people on the goal line. Then they go back to their little RPO game where they're faking inside zone, trying to throw quick slants, all that kind of stuff. The toss. I mean, how many times have we seen this year in college football where the outside toss play in low red zones always gets stopped by good defenses that pursue and play good defense and capture the edge consistently?
Ohio State got
look at that.
while trying
Look
to
at
run a toss on.
There's 4 bodies behind the line of scrimmage. This toss right here, Caleb Downs running through that gap, Ransom right there. But it didn't matter. The cavalry was there too, the rest of the defense. And I think big picture, that's what I saw. Now, this play, they try to run a double move up the middle there. They're trying to hit I'm thinking about the strip sack on the next one. They try to run a little double move against a too-high safety look. It doesn't work out. And we saw it in the third and fourth quarter. Quinn Ewers did a great job. They weren't running the football effectively, but they were doing a good job of hitting checkdowns, keeping Ohio State's defensive line on the field, wearing them out. But the key thing was, though, in critical down and down situations, they couldn't get the push they needed to just get in the end zone, to get those short yardage.
Texas didn't have a whole lot of trouble moving the ball in that fourth quarter late after Ohio State scored. They got it down there in the red zone. But like you said, Scoob, this has been an issue for Sark in Texas from last year into this year. Finesse in being effective in the red zone. They rank 52nd in the country in touchdown red zone percentage.
Right.
Which
Wow.
Is that good?
Which is not good. No, that is not good. And they also generally don't settle for field goals, because we saw a different field goal kicker in the game today than we saw in the game prior. But I do want to go back to Ohio State really quick and talk about Will Howard and his progression throughout the season, the addition of Chip Kelly and calling plays.
Right.
We saw the last 2 games in this playoff. It has been Jeremiah Smith. It's been his show. He was ineffective today. PK, the defensive coordinator for Texas, did an excellent job containing Jeremiah Smith. And in many ways took a page out of Bill Belichick's book of just taking out your best player and making you beat us with your other players. Problem is, Ohio State's got a lot of other players that they can beat you with today.
No doubt, no doubt. And honestly, I think when they watch the film back again, there's going to be more opportunities where Jeremiah Smith was open and Will Howard just didn't pull the trigger, right? And I really think, and I believe that, when they go back and watch the film, they're going to say, we could have gotten the football to our superstar a handful of more times. The one issue is that Will Howard definitely got zeroed in on his guy on his interception to Benda.
Sure.
They did a heavy play action 2-man route. Jeremiah Smith is trying to run a deep hook route, but he forced that throw. And I think from there, it kind of spooked him maybe to think, all right, I can't just look at my guy. But in these situations right here, he is open. He has space around him. He is going to catch and get some extra yards after those. So Ohio State, the great sign is you got a superstar. You didn't get him the football consistently. A few missed opportunities. Doesn't matter. You still got enough Johnnies and Joes to get it done. And overall, I think the physicality and the mentality of this football team, that's the one weakness we said about Texas all year. When people punch them in the mouth, they sometimes have a hard time countering that, and that seemed to happen a few different times in this football game tonight.
We're going to get to this championship matchup between Notre Dame and Ohio State. We will preview it later on in this show. let's say kind of farewell to Texas and kind of sum up the season that was for the Longhorns this year.
Yeah.
Again, another trip back to the college football semifinals.
Right.
Coach Sark, now in a couple of years building this thing. First year in the SEC, they make it to the SEC championship game. I think we struggle sometimes in this sports media landscape to find the nuance in things. It's always great or terrible. It's hit or bust.
No doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
And I think it kind of plays out when you talk about Quinn Ewers. When you hear people talk about Quinn Ewers, it's like he's great for this team, but he didn't get it done when we needed to. But
no doubt.
When you look at the record books, Quinn Ewers is going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks in terms of wins in Texas Longhorn history. This is a two-part question. What do you think Quinn Ewers does next, and how do you think he will be remembered as a Texas Longhorn if he's not there next year?
I think he'll be remembered fondly, right? Just because he was a part of essentially their ascension back to where Texas fans expect the Longhorns to be, which is at the top of college football, in the discussion of being one of the top 10 teams in the country every single year. But he's kind of one of the guys, too, that just unfortunately never really had the signature big win.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, hey, my brother was a fantastic Texas quarterback. And a lot of people say that about his career as well, that he just never had that big win against Oklahoma, right? They never had that big win to play for a national championship. And Quinn Ewers is a really good quarterback. He's got a lot of experience. He's endured a ton of pressure with being the quarterback, of course, of Texas, but also with Arch Manning on the bench, kind of waiting for his opportunity. What he does next, we'll see. But it kind of already seems to be like he's moving on, and so is Texas. And what that looks like for Quinn, I think it just looks like for more ball at another college.
Yeah. I mean, this pretty much describes it perfectly. Arch Manning, he knows that his time is coming up next. And Quinn, and respect to you. I know it's been a long, hard path, and you might as well be Squidward with that facial expression because you are always right there, but miss it. You know what I'm saying? But I will say, great season. You got Texas until this point. The thing about Quinn Ewers is it's a great season, but he hasn't been great as a player. He just played okay in this game. I don't want to say he played bad, but the talent around him is so extraordinary that you would have liked to see a little bit more come out of this game. Yeah, I would have liked to see more run plays because there were moments in this game where Texas would get 3-4 yards on back-to-back run plays, and then all of a sudden, all right, let's chuck that thing deep. I was like, no, man, you actually just got some momentum with your run plays. Let's keep handing it off to our backs. And that was one of my biggest criticisms coming into this game. I said, what I'm looking for Texas in this matchup against Ohio State is for them to run the football because you continue to go back towards that Clemson game where they ran for 292 yards. They looked dominant. And then they come back in their next game against Arizona State. You have a 16-point lead. And then you finally realize that, man, they only had 30 carries split between their backs. This time, it was basically just about the same thing.
Right.
29 carries altogether with their backs, where Blue wasn't even involved within the running game. He only had 4 carries, and Wisner had 17. So I would like to see them lean into those guys more because Quinn Ewers is at his best under the play-action pass.
And we saw it's very balanced. Ohio State necessarily didn't run the ball all that special either. But when it came down to get a yard, you saw Ohio State was very comfortable with just saying, we are going to run the football and be physical for this 1 yard. And I think that's one thing that like Texas needs to look at from last year, even to this year, is just that they got a lot of the plays. They got a lot of finesse plays. They got all this answer. But just you really need to establish what is your identity physically as a football team. And occasionally, I think offensively, that gets away from them just a little bit.
Yeah. We said we're in the chat. Shout out to the chat. I'm seeing people saying, horns up, man. Time to run it back with Arch. So you got to feel pretty good about knowing that
from what I've heard, like everyone's excited as hell about Arch on that coaching staff. And really it's more so they think that they're going to be able to push the boundaries of what they can do offensively with him as the quarterback, which is really interesting.
It's going to be fascinating to see what Texas looks like next year. But their season does come to an end. Ohio State on to the national title game to face
Yes, sir.
Winner of Notre Dame and Penn State. They say styles make fights, guys, and the style between Penn State and Notre Dame. This was hard-nosed, ground-and-pound football. Game was tied 10-10 after the first 3 quarters. We pick it up here in the fourth. Jeremiah Love, who's been banged up the entire playoff, just muscles his way in. This was one of the best runs that we saw at the goal line all year long.
I mean, this is exactly what you want from a guy who was so banged up coming in, and this was just a small encapsulation of how great of a back Jeremiah Love is.
That's an angry run.
Yes.
Winning the middle 8 minutes is something that Notre Dame has done all season long. The final 4 of the second, the first 4 of the third. Here's Nick Singleton as Penn State answers with a run of their own. Singleton had a ridiculous game. 3 touchdowns in this one, including on the very next drive as well after a Riley Leonard interception.
I mean, both him and Katron Allen were just awesome. I thought the Penn State offensive line performed extremely well and were very physical throughout the game.
So Penn State takes a 24-17 lead. Notre Dame unable to find a ton of momentum in the run game. So Riley Leonard goes to the air. Jaden Greathouse wide open, put the safety on skates and in for the score. 54-yard touchdown there for Notre Dame. They tie it up 24-all. Under a minute left in the game. Notre Dame had to punt it away. So Penn State with a chance here. This is something you can't do, Maddie, after you go through a couple progressions, right?
No, this is one of those situations. Here we are at the end of the football game. You want to just make a big chunk play or get an easy completion to start that drive. You don't want to force the football and force the issue there. That turnover obviously cost them the football game.
And the Mitch Jeter kick that went about 5 different directions on its way through the uprights is kind of it encapsulates the season for Notre Dame. It's been an up and down, windy road. After September 7th, the loss to Northern Illinois, a lot of people counted this team out, myself included, hand up here. But Notre Dame on their way to a national championship game for the first time since 1988. Only Alabama has won more in the AP poll era. And
14-1.
Incredible. 27-24 the final there. After the game, Coach Marcus Freeman talked about how proud he was of his players.
These guys are a bunch of savages. They're built different. I told them they're built different, and I'm so proud of them. They're a special group.
Can you appreciate what a wild, awesome game that was?
Yeah, just if I was a spectator, holy sorry.
In the kicking game, it actually been a real issue for Notre Dame. They were the worst kicking team field goal wise in the regular season, the entire country. We're going to get to the national championship matchup between Notre Dame and Ohio State in just a second. Let's break down this game in the Orange Bowl briefly, because in the first half, this was Penn State's game. They were in control, dominating up front, getting the run game going. Tyler Warren actually had more rushing yards than the entire team on the other side had in the entire first half than Notre Dame had. But things started to turn in that second half. What adjustments did you see that they made coming out of that break, Maddie?
Well, first of all, just to go into that break, I thought Steve Angeli, the backup quarterback for Notre Dame, did a fantastic job going in there, getting points before half, giving Notre Dame some optimism, and really surviving the sack fumble. Dennis Sutton, right, with that sack fumble, Notre Dame thankfully recovers that. And we saw that. The ball bounced favorably for a few teams that won today, and in other cases survived a little bit longer in the game. But to survive that moment, to Angeli to move the team down the field, passing the football because he doesn't have that ability to run like Riley Leonard, and to get that field goal before half was absolutely phenomenal. I thought in the second half, to answer your question finally, Al Golden and the defense set the edge in the run game. Now, was Penn State still effective in the running game? No doubt. But they weren't gashing them for as explosive plays on the outside, using those jet sweeps as they were in the first half as regularly. And then really limiting any space that the Penn State offense could create as far as route running. Notre Dame played straight man coverage. Penn State's defense played straight man coverage. Notre Dame did a phenomenal job of locking down the Penn State skill group and limiting and making it very difficult for Drew Allar to complete passes at a high rate.
Scoop, in a lot of ways, Notre Dame has just been a difficult team to figure out this year. I think that's why people get deemed haters of Notre Dame, just because, we all question the success and the outcome of this team down the stretch of the year. But how does Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman continue to find ways to win against teams that on paper are better than them?
Culture. That's about the one word that automatically comes to my mind, because when you hit the bottom of the dumps, the way that Notre Dame did, losing to Northern Illinois that early on in the season, where everyone said, you don't deserve to be in the college football playoff, myself included, for having a loss like that on your record. And then finishing off the season the way that they did. Throughout the year, we still had questions about Notre Dame and Riley Leonard and his ability to throw the ball down the field. But then when you look at what he was able to do against Penn State, Riley Leonard made the throws when they mattered. Yes, he had their turnover, I understand that, but he showed some toughness. The way that he was lowering his shoulder, putting his body on the line. And Marcus Freeman said it over and over and over again. These guys are savages. And that's exactly what we saw throughout the game. And we laughed about it and we joked about it at the start of the season when this new college football playoff came out. We said that it is created for Penn State and Notre Dame. And when I saw that one of these two teams was going to end up in the national championship, I was like, we couldn't have said that any better.
No doubt.
Because now Notre Dame has the opportunity to win a national championship with Marcus Freeman in his third year as a head coach, where people were even starting to question if he even deserves the job for the losses that he has had as a head coach for Notre Dame. Remember that loss to Marshall? That was ugly. And then you get the loss to Northern Illinois. Well, that don't matter. We playing in the Natty, baby. And if you're Notre Dame, you got to feel good. And if you're Brian Kelly, I know you're not feeling good.
Whoa.
A little shot to him.
Yeah.
Kelly,
We were going to get there.
Talk about Riley Leonard, too, because Penn State, because they got out to a fast lead, they were able to kind of dictate that first half, but things started to switch towards that second half, and Riley Leonard started to feel a little bit more comfortable. But the Irish averaged just 2.8 yards per rush. It was their worst mark on the entire season in that category, and Penn State forced Riley Leonard to do something that we, quite frankly, haven't seen him do consistently all year, which is win by throwing the ball through the air. What do you make of his performance?
I thought it was phenomenal, and I think I'm just like super impressed with obviously his toughness to come back from that big hit that he definitely got a concussion with there in the first half. But this guy right here, Greathouse, Jaden Greathouse. I mean, his performance was absolutely phenomenal. The contested catch there on the third down that you saw earlier, the double move there that he had at the line of scrimmage. Not double move, but just the shake and bake at the line of scrimmage.
This is what I'm talking about, putting his body on the line.
No doubt. You know, his toughness, and credit to the coaching staff. Marcus Freeman, no doubt there was question marks. He's a young guy, first-time head coach, all that. I get that. I understand that. But he's a phenomenal leader. He's got two veteran coaches on his staff with Mike Denbrock and Al Golden, and both of them understand exactly how their team is designed to win football games. And that's where I give them a ton of credit. Al Golden on the defensive side, it's real simple. We're going to get after you. We're going to pressure you a lot. We're going to give you multiple looks, and we're going to play man coverage on the outside.
And
right?
Let's not forget this, fellas. Notre Dame lost two of their offensive linemen in this game in the first half. Two.
And protected well in the second half of the game.
And let's not forget, they lost their best offensive lineman before the season started.
That's right.
I mean, this is a team that has gone through adversity over and over again. And one of the knocks for them was, yes, they are very talented in terms of their tier one guys, their starters. But once the injuries start to hit them, how is Notre Dame going to react? And to see them bounce back that way in the second half, I don't know what Marcus Freeman said to them at halftime, but he gave them some type of speech that gave them boys a fire unlike any other, because they were on Penn State's ass like some back pockets.
And I love the double move call, getting Aeneas Williams outside, right, one-on-one situation against Kobe King. Really good linebacker, a linebacker that struggles, I think, in space and in one-on-one situations.
Young.
Aeneas, really good football player. I mean, he's going to be an NFL football player. But Aeneas Williams with the slant and go there. When you got your third running back on your team who is a young football player, winning in these situations, having a great over-the-shoulder catch in a crucial situation with Greathouse added with those big ones, it is phenomenal.
I mean, this is incredible. The way that they switched things up and basically flipped the switch in the second half. They doubled everything up. Mind you, once again, with two injured offensive linemen here. The defense
best defensive tackle out.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Mills is out. It's just unbelievable.
They stepped it up to another level, and it just goes to show what this team has together in terms of culture, that toughness, and there's so many intangibles within the game of football that can sometimes help and flip the script, and I think that's what's happened here.
Flip the script. Let's flip the field to talk about Penn State here. This one's going to hurt for a while in Happy Valley, and not just because of the narrative that continues to follow James Franklin around about winning the big game. We all know the numbers, 1-18 against AP top 5 teams, yada, yada, yada. But this year and this game felt a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Notre Dame go on a 17-0 run in this game, but Penn State answered. They went on a 14-0 run of their own right after this. So they were in this game. I don't like to throw a ton of shade on college quarterbacks and college players, but what we saw from Drew Allar, it didn't complete a single pass to a receiver yesterday. Some of that's going to be on the receivers. A lot of it's going to fall on Drew Allar. Maddie, have you seen enough from the Penn State quarterback this year to convince you that he's the right guy to lead this team again next year back to a college football playoff?
I mean, he is the guy for next year. I don't really know what else they're going to do. There's no, but at the same time, he still is finding his way at the position. He played, let's just face it, he did not play well the other night.
Didn't show up.
He didn't show up. He didn't play well. He didn't throw the football accurately. I think two things, right? And just like speaking from a guy from experience and just living the life. Drew Allar, two things. Got to tighten up your motion. You got to be more efficient as a passer, like your actual fundamentals of your swing as a thrower. And you got to go from being a boy to a man in the weight room in your training and how you look and how you perceive yourself and your physical appearance on the field and how you could just be a physical presence on the field. I think he has a lot of things to be excited for, but too many times, easy throws, misjudging throws, too much arm, not enough consistency with like using his whole body. And I think if he watches more guys on Sunday and how they play, he's going to realize I need to emulate my game more like them. So improve the throwing motion, improve your physical presence on the field with understanding Andy's offense that much better, but also to your body. Got to transform your body. Got to go from being a good college football player to becoming a man, hopefully to be a pro.
Andy's got to understand him just a little bit as well, I would say, because the end of this game felt reminiscent towards the end of the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
When they were trying to figure out ways to get their Tyler Warren the ball towards the end of the game, right? So in that final play where he threw that interception, they were trying to get the ball to Tyler Warren, but he was covered. And then Allar went to a second read. That wasn't there. And then it was YOLO. Let me go ahead and throw it across the middle of the field, which is a big no-no, as we have heard over and over again.
No doubt.
And I said this before. Penn State runs a lot of 12 personnel. So by running that with your two tight ends, your one running back, with your two wide receivers, your wide receivers don't get a lot of targets. And I think Penn State, they're going to try and get some wide receivers to get in there. They tried to bring in Julian Fleming, the transfer from Ohio State, a guy who was one of the best wide receivers coming out of high school. I get that you were trying to make something happen there, but nothing seems to be working with their wide receivers. And if you're Andy Kotelnicki, you got to understand that your quarterback isn't necessarily a drop back guy. So in that final drive, what they should have done.
He is.
I don't think he's good at it.
Well, that's what I mean. He's got to get better at those things. And I think he's capable of that. He has that ability to do that. And also kind of just to take it more so on the coaching aspect. Andy, in this game, you got to have more answers for man coverage. Can't just run slants. Can't just do these basic things against guys that are coached well. I mean, Al Golden is one of the best assistants in all of college football. Yeah. The game plan was too simple. There wasn't enough opportunities, right, for them to really take advantage of some of these man looks that they were getting. And then, of course, with that, I just see there's not a connection with his throwing motion. It's just too all over the place with some of these throws. And some of these decisions aren't great. This is all hand right there. That's not a good throw right there in that situation. He's so open. He kind of had the yips right there.
And you know what it is?
And I've been in that situation too.
You know what it is, Matt? I said this before. I'll say it again. I've said a lot of things.
No doubt.
If you're Penn
You've been
State,
right a lot.
lean into those running backs, baby. Come on, man. Those running backs that you got in the backfield, them boys can cook.
No doubt.
They were cooking in the first half. Singleton, Allen, they were doing their thing. So why didn't we come back to them in the second half? Because it was a different story. And in that final drive where he threw the interception, you know what you should have done since it was a tie game? Run the rock. Run the ball. Doing all that extra cute stuff.
Halfback screen. Halfback screen like Chip Kelly did right before half.
With Ohio State. Feed into your backs. Feed into your tight ends.
No doubt.
That is what they should have done because putting all the pressure on your quarterback's shoulders when he's not capable of it is only going to lead into a collapse.
Has Notre Dame turned into a likable team now? I mean, I got texts from people yesterday that was like,
Marcus Freeman.
I'm officially rooting for Notre Dame. Right, but like when we were, I feel like when we were growing up, it was like, oh, Notre Dame hate because, you know, they were winning games.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're one of those teams where it's like you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're going to have that opinion of them, whether you know anything about them or not. But Marcus Freeman has totally changed the way that I view that program.
Yeah.
And he makes it very likable.
Very, very likable. All right, after the first round, we did a little prediction here, breaking down the bracket. One of us wasn't listened to by the other two.
We're going to do it.
Wow. Okay.
Just for the record, that was not what I was going to do.
This is Mr.
Georgia too.
SEC country. Okay, you know what? Because I'm going to go ahead and let y'all.
Team player?
I'm going to be a team player. I'm going to be a team player. We're going to put Georgia over there. Okay, all right. We're going with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Are you not? Do you want to make a point as to why Georgia won?
No, honestly, I'm comfortable with that right now.
I'm okay with it right now.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, from what we have seen,
you said it was
after
fluid,
week
though,
one.
so
Yeah, it is fluid, so it can change.
Fluid. You said it was fluid, Scoob, but I think you're going to stick with that one.
Oh yeah. This is the matchup that I had as the national championship, just because of the path that Notre Dame
All right, we get it.
had.
You were right. Damn.
All right. Sometimes you got to bring up the receipts, but don't bring up the bad ones. All right, just bring up the good ones. Shout out to our producer. We got a great national championship, fellas. I'm happy to watch this.
And look, the Fighting Irish haven't won a national championship since 1988, but Irish fans certainly remember the last time that they were playing in this game, 2013 against Alabama, which did not go their way, 42-14. Ohio State has won 6 straight against Notre Dame. And as if we didn't need more storylines in this one, obviously you got Ohio State, Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman played at Ohio State under Jim Tressel. He got his coaching start actually at Ohio State as well under Coach Tressel. So the storylines are abound in this one. The game's going to be played in Atlanta on January 20th, 7:30 Eastern Time. Mark your calendars on ESPN. What's amazing, too, and this, I'm just seeing this on the graphic. Obviously, we know this. Number 8, Ohio State. Number 7, Notre Dame. If this were being played last year, neither of these two teams would have had a shot at even playing in this game.
Such a great point, because when you also think about what these two teams have been through this season, they have suffered crushing losses.
Right.
Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois earlier on in the season, where everyone wanted you to basically be out of the college football playoff. Ohio State, you lose to Michigan towards the end of the season. Everyone's calling for Ryan Day to be fired, but he still had the opportunity where it was like, all right, everybody settle down. If we go to the national championship, then it's going to be real quiet.
Right.
Notre Dame, same thing. If we get to the national championship, it's going to be quiet.
Right.
So now both of these teams have faced adversity. They are playing some angry football, and it is going to be a sight to see.
It is. And, you know, what we're learning about this college football expanded playoff, just get in the dance.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. Just get in the dance, and everything from there, just play good football, be hot each and every week, have favorable matchups like both of these teams have had, and then when you start to play the better teams, that's where you got to gut it out and win. But you know, for right now, for all of us, we got to stop with the season's over in September and October.
Right.
It's NFL football now. Get into the dance, and then let's see what happens.
You talk about matchups. I don't know that this is necessarily a favorable one for Notre Dame, but again, you're in the national championship game, and anything can happen, Maddie.
Yeah.
So your early thoughts on this national championship game and how these two teams match up against each other.
Man, it's going to be fascinating. For one, Ohio State, I think it is very favorable matchup for them, because Notre Dame's inability to continuously be aggressive in the passing game will be a concern. And I think Ohio State is built perfectly to stack the box, be physical, and to push bodies around. And of course, what Scooby mentioned earlier, with the injuries on Notre Dame's offensive line, that's got to be a concern.
It's exactly
got to be a huge concern. So Riley Leonard, they got to perform like they did against Penn State with their skill group again and make some explosive plays when they matter.
It's going to have to be a team effort, right? Notre Dame, that's the only way.
Of course. Well, I mean, of course it is. And that's where it's like you got to think Marcus Freeman, you know, Denbrock, Algo, they got to do a great job of game plan specific plays, get your guys these explosive opportunities to get in it, win special teams like Marcus Freeman does.
All the little things.
It seems each and every week, and just keep your team within striking range always. Because if you can hang in there like they did against Penn State, then anything can happen in crunch time.
Notre Dame does a great job at turning the ball over.
No doubt.
Seen
Great
that
point.
all season long. And I think if you're looking at this as a Notre Dame fan, you're saying, man, I hope Will Howard makes a couple of those mistakes and gives us an opportunity to have some short field situations. And I think that is the key if you're Notre Dame. You're saying, okay, we're going to trust our corner. You got Xavier Watts. You got Christian Gray. Those guys can play one-on-one coverage.
No doubt.
Those guys, in some plays,
well.
you can be like, all right, we're going to leave him on the island with Jeremiah Smith. I know he's a dynamic player, but if we bring pressure, if we can get what we need against Will Howard and confuse him just a little bit,
calculated risk.
Maybe he makes a mistake and our defense can get us some points because Notre Dame has done that. They've given points to their team. They've made those plays throughout the season. So I think for Notre Dame, that's what I look at mostly because I don't see how this offense is going to find much success against this Ohio State.
It's just another reason why Notre Dame has been a bit of an enigma this year because you cannot predict turnovers or takeaways. And Notre Dame, you kind of can now bake that in to a game that Notre Dame is playing in.
That is their recipe.
32 takeaways this year, which led the country. So, that is something that you can almost count in.
Multiple looks on defense. Al Golden does a lot of different things. They always kind of end up in the same simple coverages. They don't do a ton of different coverages, but the front will be a big key. With Ohio State, they're getting more solidified with their offensive line. Offensive line has played much better these past 3 weeks, right? They feel much more confident now in the playoffs. But big picture-wise, the communication will absolutely be a huge thing for this Ohio State offensive line to make sure that they're protecting Will Howard in obvious passing situations with those pressure looks.
I mean, Michigan fans, I don't know if that's Michigan fans are probably saying, hey, we won. If anything, you want your team to win. You want your Big Ten team to win the national championship if you're Michigan. But I will say,
we don't promote that kind of,
let's see, what's this one? Karmic punishment for cheating is an Ohio State Notre Dame national championship. Hey, I like this. Lucy, that's my homie too, by the way. She's comedy. Great pull there by our team. But I will say, guys, for Ohio State, what they have to clean up is those penalties. 9 penalties for 75 yards against Texas, the most that they have had this season.
Drive killers.
A lot of what their game against Texas was is drive killers.
Yeah.
It would be, we're getting a drive going here, holding call, 10 yards. The second drive of the game, after they drove down the field and scored, Trayvon Henderson throws a dumb punch and then costs them a 15-yard penalty. The next drive after that, they're running the ball, another holding penalty, a false start. These things are really going to be costly against a Notre Dame team that typically doesn't make too many of those mistakes.
Yeah.
I know they had 2 interceptions that get called back against Penn State.
Yep.
But I think cleaning up the penalties will be huge for Ohio State.
Absolutely.
All due respect to Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day, the really intriguing coaching matchups to me are at the coordinator spots because I think you have a couple of the best coordinators on offense and on defense on both sides of the ball in this one.
No doubt.
For the college football nerds, this is a really good one.
I'm all about nerding up for this one because Chip Kelly versus Al Golden. Chip got to dial up a few things versus man coverage to make sure that you're getting opportunities for your guys. Curious to see how that is. For Al Golden, does he break the tendency and do some more zone, some more fire zone looks just to make sure that he's trapping Will Howard into making errant throws in certain situations? But we got tremendous defensive players on both sides of the football.
Yeah.
I mean, Kaiser and Bowen, the way they have played for Notre Dame has been phenomenal. The big question mark really will be for Notre Dame, just like how healthy can they get on both offensive and defensive lines, and the depth on their defensive line is a big concern. If Ohio State can just push them around and be patient in the running game and be physical and rip off a few big plays with Henderson and Judkins, that would be a big concern for Notre Dame fans.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing. How healthy is Jeremiah Love? We saw him limping around with that leg injury.
Still heard of the guy with one leg. I mean,
right? Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
And for Notre Dame, that running game is going to be huge. I've said it for Texas, and I've said it for other teams. And like Penn State, lean on your 2 backs. You don't just have 1 good running back. You got 2 running backs. And for Notre Dame, you might have 3 because Riley Leonard can ball. And just look at this.
And Williams.
Jeremiah Love
That's
can
crazy.
hurdle people too. He did this in the Orange Bowl. He's a human highlight reel. So find ways to get him the ball. Stay on schedule. Texas with their offense, was able to move the ball down the field, and it was because they had game control with that clock. They ran the ball well. They were able to just get those short completions down the field, and every now and then throw the ball deep down the field. And that is what they did against Penn State in terms of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Quick point. What's great, I think, about this matchup, two teams that really don't rely super heavily on the transfer portal. Of course, Riley Leonard and Will Howard both coming from different schools.
Right.
But both teams that I think pride themselves on culture and building a foundation of a program that develops fantastic talent and senior-led talent. And I think there's no coincidence there that both of these teams are in the championship with that type of mentality.
Yeah, and someone in the chat just said, does anyone feel like congratulations, Texas? And we're just taking shots. You know what, buddy? Congratulations, Texas. You did. You
gave
made
Texas
it to the top four.
flowers.
We gave
no doubt.
flowers.
We did.
Good to you. Hey, Texas, congratulations.
Man.
You made it this far, but
All right.
still not your
Yeah, I mean,
expectations
I'm a
of what
little
you're
shocked,
doing.
though, that, like, hey, I mean,
We gave Texas.
you
their
made
love.
it to
Yeah.
the Final Four.
They
Good for
did.
you. Is that still a banner?
One of the
like,
four
do
best
they
teams.
do that now in college
Semifinal?
football?
I don't know if they do that. That's a
Like,
good question.
Final Four, you get to hang a banner? Or?
Final Four should be a big deal. Now that we've expanded.
Yeah.
Nah, man, it's all or nothing.
Regardless.
This is football, bro.
So the national championship game is set. Ohio State and Notre Dame, January 20th, 7:30 Eastern
Yes, sir.
time on ESPN. While we were all watching the college football as well, today, yesterday, the folks out in California have been dealing with some devastating wildfires. To help the folks that have been affected by the California wildfires here in 2025, donate at redcross.org/ESPN to help the Red Cross respond to help people recover. I have a personal connection out there. I went to Pepperdine University in Malibu, California. So I'm sending all of my thoughts and prayers out to those folks and the community in Malibu as well. You think about Malibu, you think about the mansions out there, but there's a lot of working class people that are going to have a long road back to recovery as well. So please head over to redcross.org/donate to help out there.
Absolutely, Sam.
All right, so that is it for us. We are going to be back, by the way, for another edition of the Wrap-Up after the national championship game, and we will toss it over to our friends who will be on site after the game.
Fun.
So it's going to be a great atmosphere, a great game there in Atlanta as well, as we say farewell. Thanks for watching the Wrap-Up College Football Playoff Edition. For Matt Sam, Scuba Megeza, I am Sam Ravitch. We will see you on the 20th of January.
My man.